anyways, we're thrilled today as our kickoff for our May APITA History Month programming. We are so thrilled to have Professor Valerie So here, who will be doing a screening of Radical Care, the Auntie Sewing Squad. And she also said that there's another film that she will be sharing with us. So that's a bonus for us. And then an intimate conversation and presentation from her. So thank you so much for joining us today. And like I said, Radical Care is the Auntie Sewing Squad is a short film directed by Valerie So. It's about a powerful group of activists armed with sewing machines to rage sew thousands of masks while forming community during the COVID pandemic. Professor Valerie So teaches at San Francisco State University. She's a documentary and experimental filmmaker. She's been an original member, so an OG of the Auntie Sewing Squad since March of 2019. In this session, we will watch Radical Care, the Auntie Sewing Squad, and we'll also chat with So and learn about her journey as an activist and filmmaker.
So we're a national collective of volunteers of all genders who have turned our living rooms into sweatshops because of the failure of the federal government to provide proper PPE to essential workers in vulnerable communities. And our aunties, uncles, and non-binary volunteers give time and labor to make masks to stop the spread of COVID-19, specifically in the most vulnerable of communities with no access to masks. So the important part of this is that it's all volunteer and that we don't charge any money for sewing or for the masks. We donate all of our time, we donate all of our labor and our materials. So there's no money involved. We believe in a system of community care and have direct connection to our recipients. We share resources in patterns, fabric, and elastic. We pride our origins as a mostly women of color and QTNB group, queer, trans, and non-binary, that celebrates the ability of all aunties to rise up and become the real leaders in this crisis. So what that is all about is how we are very non-hierarchically organized. Meaning that, it's not like one person gives all the orders and everybody else follows along. We, all of the campaigns, as we call them, to organize to get groups of masks sent out are driven by the members. So we just, whoever wants to can get in touch with a community group and find out how many masks that group wants. And then they bring it back to the Facebook page and say, we need 500 masks for, this homeless shelter or for this service for formerly incarcerated people or whatever. And so, it's very bottom up organization. Okay, so it was founded in the beginning of, well, actually, I guess it was sort of the middle of March of last year, 2020, like I said, by Christina Wong. This is not Christina Wong. I don't know why I have this picture of this other person here, but Christina Wong is a performance artist and comedian, and she did not plan to make the Auntie Sewing Squad into any kind of institution or have any kind of, lasting group. She just wanted to have a Facebook page where she could find fabric and elastic among her friends. And so I think there was maybe like a couple dozen people in the beginning, including myself, who were part of this Facebook group. And as she says here, we didn't think we were going to be around for more than a few weeks. Fast forward 13 months later, Auntie Sewing Squad now has more than 800 members, and we've shipped off, I think Christina her estimate is 200 to 300,000 masks in the past year or so. So it's pretty, it's a pretty big deal at this point. And a lot of masks have been sent out and donated. But it didn't start out that way. we didn't mean it to be in any way kind of like something that would be around for longer than a few weeks. So the members, the people who are in the Auntie Sewing Squad, pretty much are anybody on Facebook who wants to join. There's a little bit of a vetting process. You have to answer a few questions when you apply to the group, something like, why do you want to sew face masks? Do you understand that this is not for making money, and so forth. But it's not too hard to join, or it wasn't. I think maybe now the group is closed because there's so many people, it got a little bit unwieldy. But, it's really just anybody. And as it says here, college professors, costume designers, screenwriters, scientists, authors, actors, healthcare workers, retirees, teachers, students, artists, filmmakers, labor organizers, graphic designers, lawyers, and all over badasses. Our youngest auntie is 8, where our eldest is 93, and we are juggling families, careers, and our own losses from COVID-19 in addition to the sewing labor. So this picture picture down at the bottom here is a couple of San Francisco State students who were part of a group that one of my colleagues, Grace Yu, in Asian American Studies, put together. She had a summer sewing program, and so she organized, I want to say like a dozen students who learned how to sew masks and run sewing machines, all on Zoom. Of course, this is all remote, right? And then made about 1,000 masks over the summer to send out. So, and the machines they used were donated from folks. We just put out a call to all of our friends on Facebook. One of my friends, she collected up, I want to say maybe like a half dozen sewing machines from her friends and associates, and said, we're not using these anymore, and you guys use them to make masks. So probably like these two machines were among them, and you can see they're really different. One is really old and one is much newer. So so it's very much we rely a lot, almost all, on donations for getting things like machines. A lot of fabric donations, elastic. We pay for some stuff, but that's only through donations. Some people only want to donate money, right? So we have like a GoFundMe page, and then people can donate money there if they don't have a sewing machine or some fabric they want to share. So why are we still making these masks? Right now you can go buy these masks at Old Navy or whatever, in Uniqlo or something, or in the Walgreens. So even though you can buy them pretty cheaply nowadays, we're really now trying to target vulnerable communities that have not been well served by the government. In the beginning, of course, the U.S. government totally fell down as far as supplying PPE to healthcare workers, which was crazy, right? I mean, I think I remember seeing pictures of like nurses in emergency rooms wearing plastic bags, like hefty bags, and because they didn't have any PPE. And so that initially, that's who we really were sending our masks to. But once that started to level out and the healthcare workers were able to get more PPE, then we started to look more for more vulnerable communities. Like it says here, First Nations people, farm workers, migrants seeking asylum, incarcerated communities, and poor communities of color. And then, so these are just a few of the organizations that we partner with as well. And you can see this is a picture of a farm worker in the Central Valley who's happily putting on one of our masks. And all of this is, very, like I said, non-centrally driven. Pretty much anybody can say, here's an organization I know of, and I would like us to make masks for them. And then they post on Facebook. They say, okay, we need like 500 masks to go to this women's shelter in my neighborhood. And then please send them to me. And that's how it works. Yeah. Okay, this is me and my very first mask that I sewed back in March 2020. And I just found a pattern on the internet and found some scrap fabric I had lying around in my house. And I can't remember where I got the elastic. I might have gone to somewhere and gotten her, or I might have just had some elastic lying around. It turned out that the elastic was really, really hard to find though, especially in March and April, because there were so many people trying to make masks. And so what we just had to do was we had to improvise. And so some of the people in the group, and you'll hear this in the film too, did things like they took the elastic out of old fitted bed sheets. They used like bra straps for elastic. But I figured out, and you'll hear this in the film, that you could use film festival lanyards. So this is what I did with a lot of masks. I made a whole bunch of masks that had these lanyards from various film festivals. And these were ties, obviously, they're not stretchy. So that's the first film we're going to see, all about this process of using the lanyards to make masks. Because it was the supply was super limited. You couldn't just go to the fabric store and find fabric or elastic anywhere, because it was all sold out. Now things have gotten easier, but back then, back in the first couple of months of the pandemic in the US, it was really, really hard. Okay, so since then, I have made probably close to 1,000 masks, but I am not even like the most prolific person. I'd say I'm on the low side as far as how many masks a lot of people have made. There's one person I know who's made probably 20,000 masks. She makes 100 masks a week in her spare time. and she's a full-time school teacher. So, you know, the aunties are very, very dedicated to mask making. But if you can't make 100 masks a week, that's totally fine too. If you can only make like 10 masks every week or every month or something, that's totally fine. You can, you know, we welcome anybody who wants to help out with this process and with this, you know, this way of getting masks out to as many people as possible. And since we have, you know, about 800 members at this point, it's you know, it's not difficult for us to get enough masks to send out. I'm going to say sometimes there's like, there'll be a post on the Facebook page that says something like, I need 5,000 masks to send to farm workers in the Central Valley. And that ask will be filled. Like, people will pledge to donate masks probably in like 3 hours sometimes. That's, you know, and so that's how many aunties there are, and that's how fast they are. So it's pretty astounding how quickly these things get filled. Okay, and also I have to say I haven't seen any of these masks since I sent them out. So it's you know, I just have all these pictures that the masks are no longer in my possession, obviously. Okay, so here's the first movie I'm going to show. And it's called Sewing in the Time of Coronavirus. And it's a little 2-minute film I made, which is I made it in the early part of the pandemic. So like I said, maybe April, May-ish. And it is all about why I needed to use film festival lanyards to make masks. And so it's pretty self-explanatory. And this was part of a group of films that was commissioned by an organization called the Asian American Documentary Network that, hold on a minute, stop, that had people make short films, like little 2-minute movies. So mine was one of the 2-minute movies that they made.
I'm not quite sure how it happened, but somehow I got involved with a sewing circle that Christina Wong organized on Facebook sometime around mid-March 2020. The COVID-19 crisis had just started to take over our lives in the U.S., and due to the criminal negligence of the Trump administration, hospital workers had little or no personal protective equipment available. So Christina started sewing masks for those frontliners, and I joined in. Pretty soon after that, due to the huge leap in demand, there was a run on elastic for masks, and we started looking for alternatives. Some people were making their own ties out of strips of fabric or using the plundered elastic from fitted bed sheets, but my friend Grace Yu suggested using lanyards cut from conference badges, which suited me a bit better since it didn't require any extra sewing or handwork. So I rummaged through my stash of conference and film festival badges and came up with a respectable pile of about 20 lanyards. My favorite ones were from CampFest, since they were the right width and pliancy, and they're a nice teal color. Because that's how I do, I then went on social media and solicited lanyards from my friends and acquaintances. And soon I had a huge box of lanyards. But I'm happy to repurpose everyone's film festival detritus and put them to good use. While I'm sewing, I think of the person I'm sewing for, although sometimes I know who the mask is for and sometimes I don't. I try to envision their face, hear their voice, think about what their favorite colors are. The masks are talismans against illness, danger, fear, a bit of goodwill to help folks survive these uncertain times, and it makes me feel good to be offering them to people who need them. I don't know how long we're going to have to wear masks when we go outside, but as of this moment, there are still too many people who don't have a mask or who aren't wearing them. So I'll keep sewing them and keep giving them away as long as we need them.
So that's kind of like a background into the earlier days of the Auntie Sewing Squad and the things that we kind of had to do to make these masks because there was such a shortage of materials. And you know, since then it's gotten a lot better, and so I don't have to use film festival lanyards anymore or elastic from bed sheets. Luckily, Christina lives down in LA at near the garment district, right? She's in Koreatown. So she figured out that she could go to the wholesalers down there and like buy out their supplies of elastic and fabric. So, but the other way we also got a lot of fabric from people was, you know, I don't know about you, but a lot of people that I know were just sitting on stashes of fabric in their houses that they had collected over the years. Sometimes when you sew or knit or craft, you get a lot of materials, you think you're going to do all these projects, and then you never do them, right? And yeah, you're nodding your head. So we were happy to take those off of people's hands. And that was another way we got a lot of material. Or sometimes someone would say, they would write to us on Facebook and say, my great aunt just passed away. She was a quilter. She had 30 boxes of plastic tubs of fabric in her garage. Can you please come take them out of her house and use them? And we did, and that was great. So, things got a little easier as time went by. But in the very beginning, it was really, 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 really hard to find materials. So it became like this treasure hunt. So that was, I want to say that was April when I made this. It was only about a month into the pandemic. So fast forward to the summer, around June. By June, I'd say the Auntie Sewing Squad had turned into like a group of probably several hundred people at that point. Everybody on Facebook, people on Facebook just wanted to do something. They wanted to do something. They felt, a lot of us felt very frustrated and kind of like angry at the federal government for not doing anything constructive with this COVID crisis, right? So it was a way for people to really feel like they were contributing to other people's safety. So one of the people who was interested in the Auntie Sewing Squad was the author Rebecca Solnit. So she's a friend of mine from like back in the day. And so she got a notification, someone from Kronos Quartet sent her a note saying, we want to make a collaborative video with the Auntie Sewing Squad. And so we're going to, we would like to use our music and set clips from the Auntie Sewing Squad to that. And so they contacted, Rebecca knows me because I'm a filmmaker, right? So then she got us in touch. And then that's how this piece, the longer piece that I'm gonna show you, came about, is that Kronos Quartet picked out a piece of music for us to use, and then we made a film out of it. But of course, this is in June, right? So there's no way I could go out into anybody's house and film them or to capture any video in that way. So what I did instead is that I did kind of the same thing as what we do when we're asking for mask donations, except in this case, I asked for video clip donations. So I posted on Facebook, I said, okay, aunties, please send me your clips of yourself sewing. You can shoot it with your phone, if you have a DSLR, whatever you can do to capture video. Also, you can send still pictures, and then also please send audio clips if you want. And I made a little list of questions for them to answer, like how did you get involved in the Auntie Sewing Squad? Why are you doing this, and so forth. So then the aunties sent me all these clips, lots and lots of clips. Like, oh my God, there were probably at least 24 people who sent me clips, and maybe more. Plus, on the Facebook page, there's tons of photos that people will post. For some reason, I like that last one of those slides I showed you. The aunties really like to take pictures of their finished masks. So there's a whole bunch of pictures of finished masks and people in it, all kinds of pictures, lots of documentation. So then I took all those clips and all those photos and all those audio clips and pieced them together to the soundtrack that the Kronos Quartet had sent me, that they had recorded previously. And so that's this longer piece that we're going to see. Let me see, actually, do I have... I have a slide for that, just for your reference. And here it is. Okay, so that's the background. My Zoom background is this picture. This Zoom background in this clip here, this image is from a collaborative Zoom choreography / dance performance that we did. One of the aunties runs a dance company. And so she had the aunties all meet on Zoom, and we made a collaborative dance that was all about being an auntie, sewing, cutting fabric, all kinds of stuff. And so you'll see at the end of the movie, there's a little clip of everybody doing this collaborative dance. Then we all got together and did it on Zoom. And there was probably, how many people are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's probably like 25 or 30 people at least. No, maybe more than that, because I think we did it more than once. So anyway, but again, the idea was that it was really collaborative, and it was all the aunties contributing equally. So it wasn't, it was very, like I said, non-hierarchical. And so that's sort of a really important aspect of the Auntie Sewing Squad is to get, to have, not to have one person in charge and everybody else following, but instead letting the members themselves decide what they want to do and organize themselves. Okay.
I joined because I wanted to find a way to help my community during this pandemic. The best way that I saw to do that was to be staying at home, following the social distancing guidelines, and to find a way to help others, which would be sewing masks and sending them to those in need.
Each mask that goes out there will hopefully tell that one person who receives it that they are worthy of being protected, and that there are people out there who care enough about their well-being to do the work.
We choreographed the movements for, like, there's like pushing the fabric through the machine and cutting and doing all kinds of like kind of stylized gestures for sewing. So the aunties got together with Laura Carlin, who is the choreographer, who's an auntie, and we kind of like had a big Zoom meeting and said, okay, what are the things you do when you sew? And then we thought of it, and then she pieced it all together, and she came back and said, okay, here's our little move, and then she taught us, and then we did it all on Zoom. Like this only took like 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
But it was pretty fun. It was very collaborative, same thing, because we wanted to try to get as many people involved as possible.
Sure.
And I think that's the fun thing about the Auntie Sewing Squad, is that it is really all about having, empowering people to do something collectively, and recognizing how, a group of people can really make change. So you're not just kind of like by yourself in your house worrying. And for me, that's what it was too. It's like, oh my God, otherwise I would have just gone crazy, right? I mean, so to give people a purpose, I think is probably the most important thing for the Auntie Sewing Squad at that time. Yeah.
Please join us on Mondays in May at 5 p.m. for the SDSU Sewing Squad. We will be making masks for communities in need and for the APITA Center for when we repopulate in the fall. Our goal is to make 1,000 masks by the end of the summer. Join us.